Welcome to episode 77 of Crave the Book. In today's episode, Amber and I are covering chapters 155 to chapter 0, which means we are finishing Covet in this episode. So this is the end, guys. Thanks so much for listening to all of our Covet episodes so far. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We are back, guys, for episode 77. Last week was crazy. We apologize. I know it feels like we're being inconsistent with our episodes, but things keep going terribly wrong.
Like really, really terribly.
Yeah. Amber was also sick last week. So,
Still sick.
But today we are finishing Covet, which means that we'll be completely done with this book, ready to move on to court. Now, I will give you guys a quick warning that I had to ship a physical copy of Court over to Amber, and it is currently on the way to her. So we might actually have a couple episodes where we're not reading Court. We might do a couple fun in-between episodes as we wait for that book to reach Amber. So, just keep an ear out for that. And I'm sure we'll post updates in our Crave the Book Podcast tea room on Facebook. So be sure to join our group if you haven't already. But today we are covering chapters 155 through chapter 0, which is the very last chapter of the book. Maybe next week we could discuss some bonus chapters, Amber?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well, I was like, these are like going back through the previous chapters, so I needed to stop the kind of timeline.
Yeah. All right. So last we left off, Luca had just been killed, and Flint is missing a leg, and Grace was trying to save him. Hudson had decided that he was going to go ahead and use his power to just end things because the battle was going badly. Amber, do you have spoilers for this episode?
Not a spoiler as such for the whole thing. I put it in spoilers just in case as a spoiler because I can't quite remember in the timeline of things. But I think it's fine. Okay.
So if we end up having spoilers for Court or for Charm, or if we think of anything, just as always, listen out for the wolf howl, and maybe we'll think of some things to discuss. But
I mean, I think it is because of what happens.
Yeah.
Yes, is a spoiler.
Okay. All right.
The gravity of the comment could be like, oh, that's cool. But actually, the gravity behind it, I think, is a spoiler.
Okay. So just listen out for the wolf howl if you haven't read through Court, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. And as long as you finished Covet, you are good to listen to the whole episode. So, all right. So when we left off, Hudson had made that decision. He had almost, already asked Grace for forgiveness without even really saying anything for what he was about to do. And right before he leaves the little bubble of protection that Macy had created, Jackson kind of stumbles in, and we realize that he has been bitten by Cyrus. So now he's begging Grace to basically save Flint, use whatever little bit of energy I have left before I die, and save Flint. And, I'm just saying, I've never heard Jackson beg like that on Grace's behalf. He was begging her to save Flint.
He was very much the please, if I ever meant anything to you. Like the sentences that he was using, he was pulling out every card in his deck to try and get her to do the thing.
Yeah.
If it was Dungeons and Dragons, he had rolled about a 7 out of 20 on persuasion, and then just ad-libbed and did the absolute best he could in terms of roleplay. The things he was using were not good justifications. But I think for flavor, the DM went, sure, we'll go this way.
Yeah. And when Grace was kind of, she kind of like smoothed back his hair and was giving him a little bit of that, you know, the
babying.
Yeah, she was kind of babying him, knowing that he was about to die. But then what pisses me off, like I you guys know, I think that Jackson's a prick. But when he said, "I love you, Grace, too much to ever let you choose me," I'm just like, still a controlling little prick, even in death. Like, allow is not a word that you use with your partner. I could not allow you to choose me. I would never let you choose me. You don't, I mean, I don't know. It's not, that shouldn't be his call. But,
yeah. I mean, I in my notes, I put, I volunteer you to kill you right now, Jackson, you irritating, manipulative man.
Yeah.
Like, at no point does he consider Grace's feelings. Like, she's literally got to kill him. She has got to feel the life drained from him to save her other friend, and has also got to be the one to deliver the news to Flint if Jackson didn't make it in time to see Flint wake up, that Jackson gave his life to save him. Like, there was a Grey's Anatomy's episode where the daughter died and the father had to accept the heart as a heart transplant. Like, she was the next donor on the list, and he was the next donating receiver, whatever it is. And he was like, I don't want it. I don't want my daughter's heart beating in my chest. And I was like, I can imagine that Flint wouldn't want the only reason that he is alive is because Jackson gave everything.
Right.
Because at no point did they actually explore the avenue that the Eternal Bite definitely would kill him, because he doesn't even really start to suffer. Grace says, like, oh, he starts to, like, moan, and he must be in excruciating agony by now because of the bite. And I'm like, so he's not screamed or moaned or made any noises up until that point, but that maybe the only reason that he's doing that is because you're literally draining everything from him.
Yeah.
Like, what's to say that that was the reason why he died and not the bite?
Yeah, I think that the point is with Jackson is that I think he wants to go out his own way. I think he thinks if he's going to die, he's going to do it his own way. And I think that was the reason why he went straight after Cyrus, was even Grace worked out that he had overheard her conversation with Hudson where she said, I choose you. Yeah. And he just went, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to be a martyr. Seeing as she's not going to choose me, she's not going to break her mating bond to save me. I have no soul. I've got nothing left to fight for, so I'm going to go straight to Cyrus. If that was the case, why did he go crawling back? Yeah.
Like, what was the inevitable end to a fight with Cyrus?
He said, and he even said, like, this, like, it was always meant to be like this. Like, yeah. It's almost like he knew when he went after Cyrus that this was how he was going to die. This is how he wanted to die. Yeah. And
instead of, like, actually going, oh, like, I managed to land some blows on him, like, it seemed as though he went there, got bitten, and then immediately retreated. Like,
yeah, he didn't mention making any progress, doing any damage. Like, oh yeah, you know, he bit me, but I punched him in the face.
Yeah, and I'm like, of all of the things to, like, bring back to the group. And then he goes, oh, like, please stay with me. Like, I don't want to be alone when I die. And I'm like, do you really not know your friends enough to know that they wouldn't leave you? Not only to die, they wouldn't even leave your body. He just annoys me. Even in death, he just annoys me. But that moment was very, like, emotional.
I was so stressed the first time I read it. I had to constantly put the book down and step away.
And I think that it was mostly because where Grace had been describing the way that she had been taking the magic from everybody, like siphoning it off. And she's like, I've been like skimming the surface to make sure they still had enough power left. But when Jackson went, no, please, if you can do anything, like just take everything, she realized just how deep a well of magic he had. And immediately it started to fix Flint. And it made me wonder, like, if Jackson hadn't done that, then Flint probably wouldn't have survived.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing else. There was nothing else they could have used as a well of power. Everybody was waning in strength and energy. The fight was still continuing. There was no end to the battle.
The dragons weren't there yet.
Yeah, like literally they had nothing. They had nothing else to fight with. And yet the opposing side had barely even started.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Flint would have survived had it not been for the well of power of Jackson.
Yeah.
Kind of giving it.
And Hudson, being Hudson's reaction where he immediately gravitated towards anger, where Macy was crying, Grace was crying, but Hudson just, he looked at Macy and he was just like, drop the protection. Which
there was a sentence and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, Macy.
And it was like
I put Macy as a sub for sure.
Oh yeah, like he looked with the intensity of 1,000 suns or something. And I was like, ooh, yes.
Yeah, he told Macy to drop the protection, and she was just like, "Yep, right away."
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Yeah, and he went out. And he just started poofing everything. He started anything that came near him. He did get hit once by a witch, but I mean, he was poofing the landscape, the trees, the spring. He had destroyed a lot of creatures, but then towards the end, he just destroyed the landscape to basically tell everybody, like, I will kill all of you. If you do not
power.
Right. This is how powerful I am. If you do not leave, if you do not stop this, I will do this to you. And everybody started leaving. And, I said, like, that's a noble move, Hudson. But if you just killed everybody at that moment, the whole mess would have been over way faster. Letting them go was a huge mistake in the grand scheme of things.
Yep. And I mean, to be honest, even killing just one of them, like Cyrus, just killing one, Cyrus would have been enough. Because even through court, everyone's kind of following his lead. No one's acting on their own path. They're not going on their own adventure going, this is the way that I take over the world. It's all Cyrus.
Do we even see Cyrus at all in these chapters? Like... He obviously is there, but
he is at the end when he's like escaping through portals. He's like scrabbling. He said that Cyrus was scrabbling. So I have two notes about the poofing. And I said one of them was, do you think that Mackay got a heads up about the rock that he was stood on suddenly disappearing, or did he Mackay Coyote?
I imagined him just like falling and then landing in the sand on his butt, just poof.
Yep. Yeah, like Mackay Coyote, just kind of scrabbling in the air for a bit before falling. But I was like, I'm so rude. I was fighting here. And then you just annihilated my competition as if the fight that I had just undertaken was nothing. And then the second note, that it's like, did the dragon that he poofed the wings from, like, did they just wake up with no arms? Like, is that how their anatomy works?
And why not just poof the whole dragon? Like, what?
I don't know, but he poofed the wings, and I'm like, that's got to be some payoff for when they're a human again. Like, what are they missing? Like shoulder blades? Like that would be not only like really inconvenient, but also you'd be able to turn back into a dragon at some point, but you'd have no wings. You'd be forever a wingless dragon.
I guess it just depends, because Grace talks about with Flint's leg gone, how he can balance better as a dragon. So I'm assuming that arms or front legs and, we don't know if these are dragons with 2 back legs and wings, or if they have four legs and wings. I've always assumed 4 legs and wings, which would mean that the wings are kind of their own separate. So,
but they'd still come from something.
It's just Hudson has turned it into a lizard.
Yep, they're just a giant
Komodo dragon.
And then I was like, what else was I going to say? Oh, and then so when Hudson poofed all the bones from Cyrus's body at the end of Crush, it didn't take long for Cyrus to regrow his bones with a bit of like skelly grow from Madame Pomfrey. But do dragons not have the same? Do they not have the same like healing powers?
I don't know. We haven't really.
Because of all the animals, lizards are the one thing that like they could drop their tail and grow it back.
Well, a lot of times they can drop their tail, but they usually don't grow it back. It's a one and done. You drop your tail and then you have no tail. But
it's that starfish I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's not devastating if they drop a tail.
Were-crabs, on the other hand.
Were-crabs, on the other hand, they
definitely grow back
You
limbs.
cut one claw off and they grow 10.
Ugh, like a hydra crab.
So here was my question, because Flint wakes up Flint wakes up right about the time that his mom and the Dragon Court arrive. And Flint, first he realizes that Jackson's dead and he's devastated, but then he looks over.
He's not dead yet. He's like
dying. Yeah.
Still having conversations with him. He's not saying what's going on.
Yeah, they're kind of that's right. They're kind of like Jackson's snarking back at him, just trying to take the humor route. But then Flint realizes that Luca is also dead. And I'm like, can you imagine, like, first of all, being taken out right at the beginning of a battle and then waking up to both of the people that you love most laying dead beside you? Like,
it would require a lot of therapy.
Right. Like, what? Once again, why the hell are these kids not in therapy?
Because, like, not only did you get knocked out and miss the entire battle, so you were kind of lumbered with those feelings of, like, uselessness, survivor's guilt, like all of those kind of bad emotions. But then you also find out that 2 of your loves are dead. So therefore you got that, like, sort of, like, alone feelings and grief and all those kind of sad feelings for being, like, loved and lost, better than loved at all, blah, blah, blah. But then you've also got the whole, well, you'd only be here if it, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jackson's, like, entire body.
Yeah.
Just giving everything.
And
then we will find out that both of his loves are vampires. And then we also find out soon what happens to vampires when they die. This just...
Yeah.
You got nothing. Nothing.
Yuri, I'm very surprised that when Yuri... I mean, first of all, the fact that she could have potentially saved Jackson or Luca. I mean, maybe Luca was dead for too long. I don't know. But
I have a theory.
Okay.
What was the thing that she said when she had given the heart and she said to Jackson, she said, "You owe me a life debt, vampire."
Yeah.
And I'm calling it in now. What was the next thing she said?
Protect my son?
I don't think that Luca would have had the same...
so it would be better for
ability.
Her to bring Jackson
Yeah,
in.
I think it was a very it looked like a selfless act that she was picking the one that Jackson should be with, or there's so many other avenues that you can go down as to why she chose Jackson, that it might have been like Flint had told her that he loved him more or whatever. I think it was selfish in the way of, I'm going to choose the strongest protector, strongest guardian for my son. Because Luca, when he gave Grace access to his magic to save Flint,
it was
Grace
like
even noticed. She was like, there was barely scratched the surface of it. There was nothing.
Yeah.
So it made me wonder whether Nuri chose him because he was the only choice in the way of protecting her son. and she knew that that life debt would mean something. And I do think that that's going to come out, because in court it doesn't really, does it? Like nothing really is like, oh wow, Jackson fulfilled that promise there.
No.
I think that favor is going to come into question in Cherish.
Yeah.
Big time. Where he feels like he's owed it. Like I owe this because I am alive because of your mum, and your mum gave me this promise that I have to protect you. And there's going to be some big thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, because even Hudson, when Grace is making the promise with the Unkillable Beast to return the crown to her, he just keeps saying her without, but she starts to say, I promise, and Hudson's like, wait.
No, yeah, don't promise anything.
Promises here are a lot different than, normal human promises, so you need to be sure. And promises get used a lot, like the whole pacts and things like that get used a lot. A life debt, however, is something vastly different. Yeah.
And I'm concerned for Jackson now. I've reread those chapters where I'm like, oh, actually, that's not been called upon yet.
Yeah. And Grace owes a life debt to the crown as well, right? She owes a favor.
That's not a life debt. That's a favor.
Okay, so that's just a one and done. But Jackson and Flint,
but yeah,
it's almost like a forever bound type thing.
Yeah, you owe me your life.
Yeah.
And then there was one sentence that I think hit harder this time round reading, and it was, I've lost Luca and Jackson. Why would I care about my fucking leg?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, if I woke up and I didn't have a limb, I don't know what I would find worse.
Oh, I would definitely find losing my partner. If somebody told me, your partner is going to die unless I am allowed to chop your leg off right now.
Oh yeah, no question.
Like, take my leg.
But then I get my partner.
Yeah.
That is not only have my two loves died, I also now don't have one of the most important limbs for a human to have.
And you feel that worthlessness of not being able to avenge them.
I genuinely would feel there is no point.
Right. I'm very surprised that, just thinking about how much Nuri loves her son, I find it very odd that after everything, that goes down, when she finally does save Jackson, which is straight out of Dragonheart. Have you seen Dragonheart?
Oh yeah, no, I had it was
a perfect Dragonheart moment. So for those of you youngins, it's an older movie, but watch Dragonheart.
Oh, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I love them. They're really, really, really bad CGI.
Oh yeah, the second one as well. I actually did like the second one. But yes, go watch Dragonheart if you haven't, kiddos, because it's good. But that's exactly how I envisioned the scene, even with the light shining and through the chest and But I'm very surprised that Nuri, afterwards she climbed onto Aiden's back and flew away. And I'm like, I would not leave my son. I would be like, nah, you're coming with me. We're gonna get you a fake leg. We're gonna get you recovered. I
don't even know, where does she go after that? Because she just goes
back to the Dragon Court, I assume, which we still don't know if she can remain queen. We don't even find that out in court, because they even ask, they're like, what happens when our Dragon Queen can no longer become a dragon? What does that mean? What does it mean for a vampire to have a dragon heart? Which that question kind of gets answered later. No spoilers. Mm-hmm. But we do not find out the other question. What happens to the Dragon Court if the Dragon Queen literally is not a dragon anymore?
We do, however, find out that Jackson does regain his soul.
Yeah, he says he can feel it again.
Yeah, because I think whenever we had our spoiler section and we were talking about how Jackson gets the dragon heart and doesn't have a soul and things like that, and we were like, wonder whether this gets this fixed because he could now be maybe getting a soul back and stuff. I think I forgot that sentence entirely. Yeah, and it literally answers the question of he can feel his soul again. He feels whole.
And they just expect him to get right up and start. Apparently, he feels fantastic because Flint leaves with the order to take Luca's body back, but Jackson sticks around with Hudson and Grace to go free the Unkillable Beast, which that scene went really fast. Like, that was such a fast scene. She just walks right in, unshackles him real quick. He does like a battle cry and then zoop, turns into
and then he's like, water and cookies.
Yeah, and then he's
water and cookies.
Gobble, 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 gobble. Eating cookies and drinking
you
water.
Haven't eaten in 1,000 years, and that's the first thing that people give you.
Yeah, and
what has been like
you'd be so confused about the water bottle, the cookie packet, like
your mouth would be so dry.
Yeah.
But also, like, they are doing all of this and, like, assuming that he... so when he turns human, and then they all just like, oh, okay, so Grace has been talking to him in his head, but they've all been assuming that he is English. Like, he speaks English.
Yeah.
Like, telepathically, it could just be, like, like, kind of hieroglyphics where she's, like, speaking in...
Right.
Images and concepts, but the moment that he's human and he uses his mouth, it's, like, gobbledygook. Like, they're like, he must be confused. And it's like, no, maybe he's just trying to translate because you guys have just assumed.
And how old is he? Like, even if he does speak English, like...
It's 1,000 years ago English.
Right, trying to communicate with somebody like from medieval 1,000 British. Years ago would be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Which it was, because he was just kind of spewing nonsense about giving the crown back to her. Which
and never says a word, never says their name.
You would think that of all the things that you would remember, it would be your mate's name. You would be able to say.
I don't know, because sometimes you can obsess about something so much that you reduce it to the barest thing. And if he was basically a rock for that long, that maybe he has not forgotten her name, but that the important things to him was that she was his mate and that she was a woman.
Yeah.
Like, he remembered everything about her in terms of being his mate and someone that he trusted, someone that he had to save. Like, name wouldn't really be important except for sentimental reasons.
Yeah. He's very
It would have removed most of court if he had just said this person.
Yeah. Did you remember did you watch Rings of Power?
No. There's
Gandalf is kind of this very reduced down to nothing character. He's very young and a little bit insane. But his character in Rings of Power, because it's, thousands of years earlier before the main Lord of the Rings story, it reminds me a lot of how the Unkillable Beast in human form speaks, because he doesn't really know how to talk. He can say friend and things like that. But his character, where he just kind of takes off running, and I mean, that would be so stressful, trying to take care of an adult human like that that's still able to run and be able-bodied. Like, normally when you think of a person like that, you either think of a child or an elderly person or,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why a lot of people struggle with any autistic children that they have.
Right.
So once they reach a certain age, they become stronger than the parent.
You have to have that patience. And but I'm very glad that it seems like the Unkillable Beast,
it's just a little chap in tweed.
He knows exactly what he needs to do. He might not be able to articulate it, but he does seem like he knows exactly what he needs to do. But they end up
how he does it. Like, he is a gargoyle, right? So you know the power limitations that he has, right? So he runs off of this island. You know, the only way for him to get off the island is to fly. Does he fly as this giant mountain?
Is that what he turns into every time he turns into a gargoyle? Or does later down the line, now that he's not, you know...
Because we don't find out, do we?
No. Did he have wings?
I don't know, but they would have to be pretty big. He's a mountain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even remember him.
Does he just walk into the ocean and be an island? Just float? Use the current. It would be a very long way to get to where you need to go, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me think that he ran out of that cave in a hurry. Like, he literally just went, here you go, here's a crown, bye. And then ran. And I was like, well, there's only a few ways off of that island, and one of them is flying. Which he can do as a gargoyle.
He just wanted to go outside. He wanted to go outside.
He wanted to see air.
Go outside? Outside?
It's like a dog that's been inside all day. He's like, I want to go outside.
Outside. How did you...
He'd be busting for a wee as well.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's why he ran out. He had to go pee immediately.
Yeah.
So the crown, when first read through, I remember when it was a tattoo, and I was like, ah.
Yeah.
More convenient, though.
But then I was like, I don't, like, maybe a physical thing is going to be harder to maintain control over, whereas a tattoo is nice and concealing. It's not something that you would expect to find on someone and go, oh, this is what I need.
Harder to steal, too. Though Grace did have that fear that maybe someone would try to chop her hand off to get
it. Yeah, why did it have to be on your hand?
Yeah, like maybe like up on your butt cheek or something, you know?
Yeah. As long as it's not on your forehead.
Yeah. You gotta put it somewhere discreet.
Yeah, and then when she described it as well, it wasn't like a crown picture. It was like a circle of concentric circles, 7 concentric circles that made the picture of a wreath or a crown, and all I had in my head was the Olympics.
I'm imagining them in a circle, like around, like kind of like
the EU flag.
I'm trying to think. No, there's like I have a very specific symbol in my head, but I can't think of even what the name is. But I definitely do think that in the long run, having it as a tattoo is more convenient, and it doesn't seem that Cyrus knows that it's a tattoo.
No.
He thinks that...
No, and like you also don't immediately start using it.
Yeah.
You're like, cool, I've got this tattoo of this magical thing. And let's test it out.
And it's glowing. Hudson said that it's glowing. So, I mean, it's clearly full of magic. They end up going back to Katmere Academy. Macy builds a portal, and they all bounce out. And when they arrive back, the forest around the school is on fire. They get inside the building, and it is just destroyed, which honestly is heartbreaking to me. I fall very in love with locations. I really hope that Katmere Academy gets restored in Cherish, because I'm always very sad when a location that you love gets, destroyed. It would be like if the House of the Wind in A Court of Thorns and Roses were to be destroyed. I would be devastated.
Or just Valaris in its own right.
Yeah, like if any of those areas got destroyed, it would just be it's the biggest insult, is taking a place that's safe and that's home and destroying it. It's almost like losing a character. It's sad. But they realize that the Unkillable Beast, he turns to stone in the school. They found Maurice, the nurse. But I mean, really, the school is empty. They don't know why, other than that, Cyrus might have used the battle as a distraction to ultimately capture all of this children of circle members. And then the book just abruptly ends, and we had to wait 2 years? Yeah,
a whole decade.
Years.
When I was a young whippersnapper in 1962.
We had to wait so long to get answers. And of course, right at the end, Hudson's like, I think I'm going to tell her what I saw in the laundry room that day. I think I'm going to tell her about her emerald string. And I'm just like,
bastard.
Right. Like,
Stop holding things back from people. If they need to know something, tell them when they find out. What is with all the secrets and surprises and, oh, well, I can't tell her because she'll be too upset. It's like, dude, she's going to be more upset if you don't tell her until a sudden moment where you go, this is now useful information.
That'd be like finding out that your partner has like a disease or something. And then
HIV.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm not, you know what? I'll tell her later.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell her when I fix it. It's like, no, tell her now. Because not only would she be the moral support throughout it, but also she'd probably be able to come up with a solution that you've not thought of.
Yeah. You could work at it together rather than taking that weight all on your own, which Hudson has always done. He's kind of
unless it's HIV, and then I'm sorry.
Yeah. And, well, let's hope that, you know. I mean, Hudson, he's been around for a while. We don't know how many partners he's had.
I don't think that he can get STIs. I think that was one of the things that he can't get.
Was there proof in the book? Oh, vampires can't get
syphilis.
Can't get syphilis. I was going to say episode title, but I feel like it needs to be more epic than that. Vampires can't get syphilis. It doesn't scream end game for this book. So that's where we left off. Amber does have one spoiler, so if you haven't read through Court, you might want to bounce out now and join us next week when we start. Well, we'll probably do bonus chapters next week. I doubt we're going to be starting Court next week. But Amber, jump right into your spoiler, because, yeah, I'm seeing it.
Yes, it's a doozy.
Okay.
And possibly pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we know that Nuri gave up her heart, like dragon heart. So remember when Grace almost got Alistair to give up his heartstone as the Unkillable Beast? Mm-hmm. He went to do it in a second without thinking. Like, he went to take out his heart as a gargoyle. Almost as if he didn't want to be a gargoyle anymore. He didn't want the gargoyle anymore. So do you reckon that the heartstone does the same thing as a dragon heart?
I mean, I believe that it was a dragon heartstone. I believe that they referred to it as a dragon heartstone. So maybe all paranormals have a heartstone. Maybe that is like the epicenter of their power.
Except vampires, because they have bloodstones.
Do they have bloodstones, or is it that when they die?
It was the thing that they make. It's the crystallized blood that forms into the rock, and that's what they used as one of the things to get Hudson out.
So maybe all species can do it.
Maybe, but I was just thinking, like, what if that's the one way that Grace needs to save someone in Cherish?
Oh, and give up her gargoyle?
Yeah.
She really doesn't want to rule the gargoyle court.
No, she doesn't, but also she loves her gargoyle.
Yeah.
So it would be a proper sacrifice that she gives up her gargoyle. But based on what happens with Jackson and the fact that he has the dragon hearts, it's not just that it saved him. He became a dragon.
Yeah, he maintained his vampire powers and became a dragon.
So whoever could get saved with the gargoyle heartstone could also become a gargoyle.
Hudson is the gargoyle king, even though he's not a gargoyle, right? Because if Grace is on the circle, she's the queen. That would make him the king, even though he is a vampire. So if
she does, because she said with the crown that she was going to take away his powers. I'm just concerned that at one point she's going to take them away because he doesn't want them anymore, and then it's going to leave him vulnerable. He's going to almost die. She gives him the heartstone. He becomes a gargoyle vampire. So he is a vampire with all of his vampire speed and strength and everything, just without his powers. But then he's also a dope-ass gargoyle. And then Grace is just bog-standard human.
Now,
That's not a preferable ending.
No, but is this the first time in history that this has ever happened? You mean to tell me that this has never happened before? That there's never been a dragon that sacrificed its heart to, I mean, even a wolf, like, or a witch?
Well, I don't think so, because what was Nuri's husband called? Aiden looked at her with like pride, as if she was the most beautiful and amazing and majestic thing on earth. And I'm like, he wouldn't be able to immediately make the same connection that was what she was doing if that was something that had never been done before.
Yeah, because I mean,
like, he immediately knew what she was going to do.
Right.
And if it was an unprecedented event, then he wouldn't immediately assume, oh, she's about to do that.
Well, maybe because dragons are very selfish creatures, you know, by nature, regardless. And there's already been multiple mentions of dragons being selfish in the books as well. Yeah. So it seems to be a universal rule. Maybe it is that it isn't uncommon for dragons to give their hearts to other dragons, but the idea of, you know, a rival race, them sacrificing themselves for a vampire, maybe that's never happened before, or at least maybe it's never been documented. Because when we do find out that Jackson can shift into a dragon, it is a very, like, you know, whoa moment that everyone acts like they've never seen it before.
Another thing that I would like to see whether it is a case is whether he is also golden brown.
I think
because then that would be her dragon.
I thought
they described Nuri's color of her dragon, but I don't remember what Jackson's dragon's color is to know whether it is the exact same dragon.
I do believe that it was that he is. I can't remember, but they do describe his color. I just can't remember what it is because we don't.
Yeah, if it's golden brown, it'd be a nice little nod. And then my other question now is that whoever it was that was the dragon that escaped the Ethereum had to give up their heartstone to the crone.
Oh,
is the crone a dragon?
I don't know.
Like, why would you just have that and not use it?
Maybe she's got it in a jar somewhere.
It's like a petrified dragon heart. She's using it in spells. Eye of Newt, Heart of Dragon. But yeah, I was just saying, like, did he give it to the crone, or was that just the leverage that the crone told him he was going to need to give?
Right. It wasn't that she even really wanted it for a purpose. It was just
was she part of that transaction at all, or was just the story that she knew?
Right. That would be an interesting one, especially since she's had that kind of when Jackson came and he didn't have a soul, and she could immediately identify that he had no soul. What's it going to be like when she sees him again? What's it going to be like when?
But also, if he had a dragon heart and he went in with a soul, she could have fixed him.
Yeah.
Bastard. And then what happens if, like, Jackson needs to give up his dragon or something? Like, does that mean that he's instantly dead? He can't give his dragon.
It's the only thing keeping him alive right now.
Yeah.
Ooh, I speculate that in Cherish, I speculate that we're going to probably lose an important character. I don't think that all of our favorites are going to make it out alive. Did you say Grace? She's my least favorite character.
I'm really, really hoping it's not someone like Uncle Finn. I genuinely would cry.
Would it be because of Finn, or would it be because of Macy?
Because he was like a father figure he's not important enough of a role for me to feel like he would dive into the battles or anything. So for the fact that he would just die would be just such a waste.
Right. And it's also like what his death would mean. Not for me, it's not so much that I would care about him dying, which, you know, I don't want him to die. But, you know, He's not
He's only just got his wife back.
right.
As well.
What his death would mean would be so devastating for Macy finally having her family back together, for Grace having that father figure that she can still look up to.
Katmere Academy,
Yeah.
like kind of like when Dumbledore died, but Dumbledore was 10 times the role of
Oh yeah.
Uncle Finn, and that's not because Uncle Finn isn't any less of a character. It's just that Dumbledore was a manipulative son of a bitch and put Harry into positions where Harry needed him constantly.
And then there's Finn, who just doesn't pay attention. He doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Dumbledore
Yeah.
always knew what was going on. Finn literally never knows what's going on ever.
Nope.
All right. Well, Amber, I'm assuming next week we probably won't be getting on to court. If you wanted
It
to,
depends on which shipping speed you used,
the
because some things arrive very, very quickly, especially big boxes.
well, we'll play it by ear, guys. And assuming that court doesn't arrive by next week, you can expect an episode maybe discussing the various bonus chapters, because we do have all of them. So maybe we
Maybe
can,
some fan fiction.
yeah, we could do some fun things. Amber had talked about, because she did a Crave quiz with her husband in one of the past episodes. Maybe Amber could try to quiz me. We'll figure something fun out if court hasn't arrived to her by then. But thanks so much for listening, guys. We appreciate you for sticking with us, even though sometimes we are
Inconsistent.
consistent due to life, but we do appreciate you.
We're busy people.
We are busy people,
I have 20 things on my to-do list today.
but we're here for you.
Yeah.
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 And the thing is, it's not just like, oh, I've got to record the podcast today. It's like, I've got to read for the podcast today, but I've also got to walk the dogs for the podcast today, because if I don't, they won't sleep through it and they'll bark through it. And then I'm like, well, if I'm taking them for a walk, I may as well also take my post with me. So then I've got to do little orders. It's like a knock-on effect of all these things. Once they're in a row, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm running the universe. But when it's like tackling things like your sofa delivery and things like that, it's like, my ducks are not in alignment. I can't do this.
Yeah, what we do for you guys, all the sacrifices.
We love you.
We love you. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.